The New York Times, a former newspaper, has obtained a document from the Democrat Party outlining their plan to spend $20 million in an effort to win back male voters. The effort is being hailed as a continuation of the great Democrat tradition of wasting money without even beginning to solve a problem created by their own stupid ideas. The document, entitled How to Make Toxic Men Love Us Even as We Castrate Their Sons and Turn Their Women into Fractious Whores, includes a collection of ideas from a diverse committee of women, black women, men pretending to be black women, and feminists who are sort of like women, only feminist. The effort is being hailed as a continuation of the great Democrat tradition of forming committees on the basis of diversity and thus laying the groundwork for a hilarious catastrophe that was predictable to everyone except a diverse committee. To add an international flavor to the committee, the Democrats reached out to French President Emmanuel Macron, who said, quote, "I think in order to properly study men, we need to," but he couldn't finish because his wife smacked him in the face. At the heart of the Democrats' effort is an attempt to learn how to speak to potential male voters by studying liberal men in their native habitats, like gay bars and the ballet. This attempt comes on the heels of the failed presidential campaign of, what's her name, that cackling semi-black girl who chose Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate because of his ability to code switch from talking like a homosexual serial killer to talking like a homosexual serial killer trying to sound like a regular guy. In the wake of that failure, the Democrats hope to learn how to communicate with men online by, quote, and my hand to God, this is a real quote, studying the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in men's spaces. So, for instance, instead of just bluntly telling men it's time for them to take a back seat and let women lead the way into a glorious female future of unreasoning chatter followed by helpless sobbing interrupted by snapping at anyone who tries to make them feel better, Democrats might now attempt to gain attention and virality by posting such male-coded messages as, "Hey, bro, how about giving the chicks a chance for a change? And meanwhile, pass me the soap with those attractive muscular arms of yours," unquote. To ensure their new man language is not limited to English speakers, Democrats interviewed French President Emmanuel Macron, who said, quote, "I believe in order to speak with men, you have to," but he was unable to finish because his wife smacked him in the face. The document also suggests the party might want to change its hectoring tone of school marmish moralizing, just in case that alienates some men or causes them to projectile vomit their last 3 beers into the face of the first Democrat they see. In order to help them stop moralizing, the Democrats have appointed a diverse committee to run a $50 million study entitled, "What is Morality, and How is it Different from Sexually Mutilating Children in Order to Pretend Gender is a Social Construct?" In a further effort to communicate with men, the Democrats are seeking to create a quote-unquote new Joe Rogan to head a popular male-oriented podcast. After a $75 million study by a diverse committee, the Democrats discovered that Rogan actually used to be a Democrat himself until he found out the Democrats were a bunch of communist perverts. The Democrats feel they can fix that problem by replacing Rogan with some other bald man with a lot of tattoos and hoping no one notices the difference. To internationalize the appeal of the new Democrat Rogan, the Democrats sought advice from French President Emmanuel Macron, who said, quote, the whole secret to Joe Rogan is that, but he was unable to finish because his wife smacked him in the face. More recently, in a controversial move, the Democrats decided to add a man to their diverse study committee, and after a great deal of debate, they finally appointed Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron's wife. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this may be the Andrew Klavan Show. All right, we are back. I knew I wasn't going to get through that opening, laughing our way through. I don't even know what we're laughing our way through. And no, I do not believe that Mrs. Macron is really a man, but I did think it was funny, which matters to me more than the truth. Quick reminder, this is your final weekend to save 40% on a new Daily Wire Plus membership, which you do want to have. Don't miss it. Head to dailywireplus.com and use code DW40. Also, if you are watching the show, no matter where you're watching the show, even if you just imagine you're watching the show, in your head, just put a comment on your forehead or wherever the closest person's forehead is. And if that comment is absolutely morally reprehensible, we will read it on the air because that's our jam. Today's is from Aram Meyer, maybe? Aram Meyer. He says, Andrew, I loved reading The Kingdom of Cain, but I was truly disappointed to find no Trump happiness montage hidden in the text. Well, that's true. But I do want to point, I didn't actually want to say this on the show, but I think just in answer to this comment, I have to say it. I just want to play just a little bit of the audio version, which I read. This is just a short segment of the opening of the book from the Audible version. This is cut 1. Sorrow is so woven into the very fabric of material existence that to turn our faces from it is to turn away from life itself. In the presence of our mourning mortality, even Jesus wept. And still the apostle tells us, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. And now just play the same thing, but play it backwards.
We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet.
Zippity-dee-da, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. Yay! You'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore.
I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and gay.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
That's just a little Easter egg we threw in there. And listen, I know I've been plugging this book hard, The Kingdom of Cain, Finding God in the Literature of Darkness. And I know I'm awkward about it sometimes because I hate plugging myself. But buy this book. You are going to love this book. I just before I came in, I looked at the 3 top reviews in Amazon. Here they are. And just one sentence. An amazing examination on harnessing the divine light to create art from the darkness of life. That's one. This book took me to places I have never been and showed me things I can't unsee. It made me question God and then renewed my faith in God. Here's another. Klavan has become a 21st century C.S. Lewis gone noir. This is all of the reviews. They're all like 5-star reviews. Please go out and buy this book because you will love it. Not for me, but because you will love it. I know you guys were great. You put it on the New York Times list. I'm never going to get the reviews from places like that, and I'm never going to get the awards from people who give awards. So you are my audience. So please go out and buy The Kingdom of Cain today and on Amazon if you can. Let's get to today's episode. Finally, This is Fine. And today I'm going to put forward a radical Klavan theory. If you follow the media, which I have to do for my sins, it's like purgatory. I think if I follow the media for 1,000 years, I then get to go to heaven where I can watch Knowles begging for a sip of water from hell. If you read the news, you might get the idea that America is like a house on fire. And if you read the left, even though we're no longer being censored or put in prison for disagreeing with the regime, if you read the left, Trump is going to turn into a Hitlerian dictator any moment now. So it just hasn't happened yet, but any moment, just wait, it's going to happen. And if you read the right, even though prices are dropping and we seem close to rearranging our international trade deals in a way that's much more fair and beneficial to us, Trump is going to, if you read the right, Trump is going to cause massive inflation and depression any day now. Just wait. And if you read social media, you know, the courts are taking over and the Congress is ruining everything and everyone's a traitor and a grifter and a terrible Jewish person. And you know, I'm going to offer today a radical theory, and it's this. You all know that meme that shows a house on fire and the little dog drinking coffee and saying, this is fine? Klavan's radical theory is that the dog is right. It has been over a decade since Edward Snowden revealed that the U.S. government is spying on us, yet nothing has changed. The House Intelligence Committee denied it was happening, and just last year, Congress actually expanded government surveillance powers. We are losing this battle against our own government, and you know the phrase, Big Brother is watching you from Orwell's 1984? It served as a constant reminder that privacy didn't exist and freedoms were crushed. If we don't push back, we're heading toward our own Orwellian nightmare right here in America. If that sounds terrifying, there is still good news. There's actually a way to reclaim your digital freedom, and it's called ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN routes all your internet traffic through encrypted channels so nobody can see what you're doing online. Not the government, not data brokers, or even your internet provider. Complete privacy with one click. It's the top-rated VPN by CNET and The Verge, works on any device and protects up to 8 devices at once. And I like it because it's easy. I put it on all my devices. You press a button and you're protected. If you want to protect yourself from corporate and government spying, go to expressvpn.com/Klavan and get 4 extra months of privacy for free. That's expressvpn.com/Klavan to get yourself an extra 4 months free. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you spelled express. I know how to spell express, but how? Oh, how? Please tell me, how do you spell Klavan?
There are no easy things.
Chapter 1, Taco. So there was always going to come a point, I mean, it was inevitable. There was going to come a point when, like, this bullet train of the Trump administration, the second Trump administration, was going to get mired to some degree in the D.C. swamp. That's just the reality. I mean, that's the way democracies work. Eventually, the opposition is going to reconstruct itself and start to get in the way, and the Congress is going to chicken out, and all the things that happen in politics are going to happen, and people are going to abandon the ship, and nobody's going to agree on everything. And it's just reality. It's what democracies are like, and it's frustrating, but it's what they're supposed to be like. It's what our country is supposed to be like. There's supposed to be people fighting with each other. There's supposed to be drama. There's supposed to be checks and balances. Much as I love what Trump is doing, he is not the king. We do not want a king. I don't care what anybody tells you. I don't care what the Catholic integralists say. I don't care. This country was formed on the basis that you and I are the sovereigns of the country. We want us to stay that way. And the way we do it is by putting people's self-interest against one another. And that's what's happening. And it was always going to happen. Trump came in and shocked and awed them. And it was great. It was really fun. It made me absolutely giddy. But eventually, they're going to reconstitute themselves and start to fight back. The real damage to our democracy and our democratic republic is done when people try to outsmart the system, like FDR bullied the Supreme Court into basically tossing out the Constitution and let the government start to control all these sectors of the economy, which they shouldn't have done. FDR, his programs made the Depression last 10 years, where it would have lasted 1.5 or 2, and he just gave government too much power and politicians too much temptation to keep adding to these things by way of buying votes. And every time they add something, they're really taking away your personal freedom. That is the thing. Nothing the government does not take away your personal freedom. So you want them to do less and less, not more and more. So when that happens, or when lawyers get the Supreme Court to give us freedoms like we don't actually have in the Constitution, remember, the Constitution is supposed to give enumerate all the powers that the government has. And if it ain't enumerated, if it ain't in the Constitution, they do not have that power. That was why some of the founders didn't think we needed a First Amendment. They said we don't mention speech, so they can't censor speech. Wiser heads prevailed because they knew that the government would naturally seize all the power it could. And then recently, I think most recently, the really sinister thing that happened is this truly sinister Chicago operator, Barack Obama, implanted radicals in the system to misuse its power. So you get like John Brennan leading CIA, and then you had James Comey in the FBI, and these were people, this is a system that he put in. I'm not saying he did all those things. I'm just saying that he developed the system of implanting people to misuse the IRS and misuse all these people. So all of those things are happening, and it's part of the natural corruption of democratic republics. But Trump, in fact, has been doing an excellent job of cleaning some of that crap out. Now, all of the things that always happen in democracies, people trying to stop him, people fuddling up corruption, all this stuff, that's all happening as always. But he got in his first term, he got a more conservative majority on the court, and they have been, for all the problems we may have with them, they got rid of Roe v. Wade, they got rid of Chevron, which gave the agencies far too much power. It essentially allowed an unelected bureaucrat to make a rule and then judge whether he had broken the rule when you sued him. And they weeded out, they got Elon in there to weed out some of the waste and fraud and to expose how corrupt that system is and how corrupt those things like USAID had been and how they were stealing your money to use for their leftist political goals. And so now we've reached a point. Elon Musk said he was going to leave, and he's gone back to business. He's going back to go take us to Mars and things like that, all the brilliant things that he's capable of doing. And he's watching this big, beautiful bill, the spending bill, make its way through Congress in the usual, sausage-making thing. And he feels bad because they haven't codified his cuts. He thinks that the spending is going to just erase the savings that he put in. And he's disappointed by that. He was talking to David Pogue, I think it was on CBS, his cut 4.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion. Yeah,
that's my personal opinion too, and obviously that's true. I think there should actually be a law limiting the length of bills so that we can read them, because if you're governed by by laws you can't read, you're not actually free. But the president was asked to respond to this, and here's what Trump said, cut 5.
We have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was. We have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill. But the beautiful is because of all of the things we have.
So that's just reality, right? It's never going to be different than that. Elon Musk speaks for us because we're not in government. He's in business, which is more efficient than government, which is why we want our economy to be run by business people. But politics is always going to be politics. It's not just you go to the board and you explain what you want, and the board says, yes, well, you're Elon Musk, so we're going to give you what you want. You got to go to 400 plus, congressmen, all of them terrified that they're going to get their limousine and corner office taken away, and they don't want to go back and face the people that they're supposed to represent. So all of them are terrified, all of them are cowardly, all of them are defending their position, and you get what you can, and that's what Trump is doing. He's talking about reality. So we're living in this thing where everybody is always agitated because that's the way it is to live in America, and always has been. You go back to Ronald Reagan and go, no matter how great a president you think he was, and he was a great president, it was all fractious. It was all screaming and yelling. It's the end of the world. We're going to have a nuclear war with Russia. Always, every day was like that. And in fact, you look back and think, actually, it was pretty good times. He turned the economy around. He actually brought down the Soviet Union. It was a major, major period of victory, right? So there's a new rolling average of Rasmussen poll showing that 50% of the people polled think the country is heading in the right direction. That's the highest number in the 20 years the poll has been taken. It's essentially a majority of people think the country is going in the right direction, and that's never happened before. And Rasmussen is a conservative-leaning poll, but it's not a dishonest one. It actually comes pretty close a lot of times. And it seems that people understand that Trump is on their side. He's on the right track. And so much of life is trajectory. So much of life is trajectory. If you are, whatever it is your problem is, if you're a drunk and you stop drinking and turn that trajectory around, your life will improve like that. Even if you fall off the wagon, sometimes you get back on, you're moving in a different direction. If you stop watching you're moving in a different direction. The country is moving in a different direction, and the people are right. It's heading more in a right direction. So, you've got all these people, saying, saying things that they hope will get under Trump's skin, because Trump can be thin-skinned about personal things. We know this, right? And their newest one is taco. This is the big taco. This is Wall Street, yappers are saying this. Trump always chickens out. That spells taco, because he threatens tariffs. He gets what he wants, and then he takes the tariffs away or puts them on pause, which I think is called negotiating, which we told you about on this show. The minute it started, everybody was screaming, oh, the tariffs. The Wall Street Journal, it really was like a house on fire. I was looking at them and thinking, what happened? You all turned into old ladies caught in the attic of a burning house. he's negotiating. And so a reporter sort of goaded him with this as cut 3.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want.
So in other words, he's always been doing this. He doesn't always tell you he's doing this because that maybe gives the game away. But these are things that, that are happening, that are in motion. And I always say they always report on Trump as if the thing he says in that moment is where he's going, but he's always negotiating, he's always dealing. And so you don't really know. You have to wait and see where things end up. And he can lose and he can win, he can compromise, he can do all those things, but you have to wait and see which way it's going to go. And then there's this other thing about the lawfare, the judges, for about 10 minutes, this really obscure court I had never heard of, it's a federal court, but it's a federal court of international trade. So no, he can't put tariffs on. He's overstepping his presidential role, even though Congress said he could do it. And they say, well, Congress can't say that because it's against the Constitution. And never mind. But anyway, 10 minutes later, another court said, no, we're going to put it back on because he can do it until this other case. It's all in play. But that too is what's supposed to happen. I've been very critical of John Roberts, but I'm critical of John Roberts for a very specific reason. John Roberts wants to maintain the credibility of the court. And that actually is important. I know it sometimes makes him look like a wuss, and sometimes I think he is a wuss. But what he's trying to do is important because, like the Pope, the Supreme Court has no armies. And yet we need to respect it, or else we lose the rule of law. And the rule of law really does matter. But doesn't mean that Trump is just supposed to roll over. He's fighting back when he thinks the cases are wrongly decided. And what I think Roberts is doing wrong is he's trying to maintain the credibility of the court through a noble fiction, which is that there are no Trump judges and Obama judges. And unfortunately, that's just not true. Conservative judges tend to hew to the word of the law, but there are radical leftist judges who are using their positions to just try and stop the president because they don't like what he's doing. And they're overstepping their line. And I think instead of the useful fiction or the noble fiction that they don't exist, I think he needs to slap them down a little harder. That said, he is quietly pushing back against them. He is saying, you may have overstepped a little here. We're going to overturn this. So Trump is winning some and losing some. And this is just part of the game. And obviously we want him to win more than lose, but still we have to understand that he's not the king. There is going to be this fight among all these people, all these different branches of government. That's the way it's supposed to be. The House is not on fire, or that is, the system is for the House to be on fire, right? This is fine. The dog is right. The dog drinking coffee is right. This is fine. Foreign policy, and listen, on foreign policy, everybody's saying, is this World War III? And that's a fair question because catastrophes happen quickly, but blessings come over time. This is a kind of an iron rule of life. I mean, sometimes there's a sudden blessing, but really, if you'll notice that if you follow basically God, let's be blunt about it, if you follow God and sort of ask him what he wants you to do and then do what he wants you to do, you find over time your life is going to improve, whereas sometimes you get hit by some disease, you get hit by some terrible tragedy. These are things that happen in life. So sure, there can be war. And on foreign policy, we're getting into a little bit of muddy parts. Trump wants Iran to negotiate with Iran. I don't know what he thinks is going to come of that, but he thinks he can do it. He's putting pressure on Israel to end the war in Gaza. Israel is unhappy because they want to go after Iran, and I'm with Israel on this. They should bomb Iran into the Stone Age. Certainly bomb their nuclear facilities into the Stone Age. And then he's having this problem with Putin. We always knew those people who listen to the show and don't listen to people online who are talking nonsense, Putin is a POS. He is a absolute piece of garbage. He is a dirty man, a tyrant, a thug. He's a KGB thug. And I'm not, doesn't mean Ukraine is like the heroic Ukraine. It doesn't mean anything except that he's a punk. And he wants to humiliate Trump. So while Trump is negotiating with him, he's bombing Ukraine, And Trump is asked, does Putin really want peace? This is cut 6.
Do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently, but it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. That I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that.
So ask yourself, is Trump going to chicken out? Come on. Come on. I'm not a betting man, but I would put $1 on Trump, even against Putin, he's a tough guy. I admit that Putin's a tough guy. But this is the world. This is the world. The world is like this. It's a dangerous place. Would you rather have Trump in place doing these negotiations, or have the ghost of Joe Biden, doing it? Or what's her name? The woman who ran for president last time. Do you want her in there? No. We have the best situation we can possibly have with Trump doing this. This is fine. This is the world. This is fine. What is happening, and I know I've said this before, but it's worth remembering, is radical and radically good. What is happening, what we're watching, is radical and radically good. The 50% of the people who think the country is going in the right direction, they are right. We are watching the replacement of an old, corrupt, failed order with a new, rollicking, rowdy crew of American populists. That's what we're watching. And the elite on both sides, who have had all their power from the old system, that old system that worked for a while after World War II and now is faded into corruption and disuse and dysfunction, those elites on both sides, look, they opened the borders to flood the country, and both sides did that. I know that Biden took it to a new level, but both sides failed to close the border. They flooded our country with illegals who are bad for the country and who are not going to be assimilated. They sent our manufacturing base overseas. Both sides did this, and they turned the Midwest into a wasteland and took away the factory workers who do things like build ships to fight with the Chinese Navy. Those guys are gone. We have to teach people how to weld because those guys aren't around anymore. They killed the economy and crushed our freedoms over a pandemic that would have killed just as many people if they had just left us alone to live our lives. And they encouraged leftist riots while pretending they weren't riots at all. And bit by bit, we are kicking them to the curb where they belong. And so they're using all their fading power to scream and yell that the house is on fire. Guess what? Their house is on fire. This is fine. Many people say to me, Klavan, you're older than time. How do you look so good? And it's because I take care of myself. And part of taking care of myself is taking balance of nature fruits and veggies. It's the most convenient way to get whole fruits and vegetables daily, especially if you're focused on creating a healthier, happier lifestyle, as you should be. Nature is pretty good at giving us the nutrients we need through our fruits and vegetables. So balance of nature helps out by taking fruits and vegetables, freeze drying them, and turning them into a powder, and then putting them into a capsule. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and then your body knows what to do with them. Balance of nature is just one ingredient of balanced lifestyle, has no intention of replacing a healthy diet, exercise, sleep, or any other healthy habits. It's intended to be used in concert with other healthy habits, and I love it because I don't have all the juice dripping into my beard, and I can get all the fruits and veggies I need without looking funny, shoving things into my face. Go to balanceofnature.com and use promo code Klavan for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com. Promo code, how do you spell this word? It's Klavan. No E's in Klavan. I just make it look this easy. Chapter 2, The Hardy Boys versus the Swamp. Meanwhile, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, I love these guys. They're like buddies in a cop movie, like the Hardy Boys. I don't know if you remember the Hardy Boys. They were two intrepid boys solving crimes when I was a kid. Those books were incredibly popular. And I just really, I've met Patel, I've met Dan Bongino a couple of times, and I really like Bongino. I don't know Patel well enough, but I liked him when I met him. Bongino, I think, always looks at me because he's a very intense guy, and I'm always kidding around, and he thinks I'm dissing him, which I'm not. I have nothing but respect for Dan Bongino, but I do kid around a lot. And he's always looking at me. He's like, am I supposed to laugh or should I just break his neck and put him out of his misery? I can never tell what he's going to do. I always say that Dan is obviously is not a god, but he's kind of like God because you only live for as long as he allows you to. Anyway, they're at the FBI and they're investigating the FBI, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And it's hugely important. And, James Comey, I talked about this a little bit on Member Block last week, but if you're not a member, shame on you, but still, he's promoting his new mystery novel, which is published by the same people who publish my mystery novels. And yes, they know exactly what I think about him, but I also think that they should publish his novels if they think they're good. I have no problem with that. But I do think he is the guy who was one of the authors of the Russian collusion hoax. It was absolutely wrong. He viciously and wrongly helped to destroy Michael Flynn, or try to destroy him. And he used proxy leaks after he was fired, as he deserved to be fired, to get a special prosecutor appointed to slow Trump down. And this is what the guy who was the head of the FBI, as he's promoting his book, and my publisher said, I don't care what you say about him as long as you name his book. Tough. He was talking to Jen Psaki about prosecuting Republicans, and this is what he said, cut 9.
There are cultural impediments to doing this work. Let's say you work in the FBI. You know that one of the two political parties is, let me put it nicely, white supremacist adjacent at a minimum. And so why would you want to throw your career on that side of the line and be summoned to Capitol Hill to be asked, why are you pursuing these innocent groups? And so we have a cultural impediment to working it effectively that should get more attention than it does.
So that's the former head of the FBI believes that one of the parties, the one that won the last election considerably, right? So he's talking really about half the electorate are white supremacist adjacent, which is crap. I mean, it's absolute crap. They're not the ones who hire according to race. They're not the ones who hate a race the way the left has demonized white people. It's absolute nonsense. And he's the guy who was running the FBI and running it in such a way that expressed that attitude. So now the Hardy Boys, Kash and Dan, are out there finding all this garbage they did. I mean, Bongino said they found all these documents that he had hidden away, and he says, we're going to be shocked when we see them, but he promises we will see them. Kash Patel was with Bret Baier, and he says he's going to expose all of the stuff that we want to hear about. Cut 8.
I think from some of this stuff, when we go back and look at things like the pipe bomber case, the cocaine in the White House, January 6th, and Crossfire Hurricane, the prosecutorial decisions will lay at the Department of Justice. But we are rigorously investigating them, and I think we've developed some great leads. And I also think we're not going to wait for any blue ribbon commissions. That's up to Congress. If they want to do that, that's totally fine. They're a coordinate branch of government. But we've got answers coming on all these matters.
And so he says, they're going through this. It takes time because the FBI alone can't declassify all the documents. And listen, at some point, you look at some people and you have to trust somebody, right? I mean, you can't just think everybody is a grifter and a liar because, for one thing, it's just not true. And I do not believe that Kash Patel is a grifter or a liar. And I am certain down to the ground that Dan Bongino is not. And so I think that these guys, I believe them. That's that's what I think. I think they're, and they have to, I have to say, the one conspiracy I actually thought might be real was that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered in prison. I mean, it just looked like all the cameras off and all this stuff. And they are saying, no, they have seen all the documents. He killed himself. This is Dan Bongino talking about it. Cut 7.
I'm just telling you what we see in the file. I just want to be crystal clear on this. I am not asking anyone to believe me. I'm telling you what's there and what isn't. Right. There is nothing in the file at this point on the Epstein case. And there's going to be a disclosure on this coming shortly. We are working through there is video. That is something the public does not.
There's video of him killing himself.
No, not the actual act, but the entire MCC Bay, it was only one camera. There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release, that's what's taken a while on this. We are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see there's no one there but him. Right. There's just nobody there. So I say to people all the time, if you have a tip, let us know. But there's no DNA, there's no audio, there's no fingerprints, there's no suspects, there's no accomplices, there's no tips, there is nothing.
Right. So a lot of people said, oh, Dan Bongino, Cash Patel have become part of the swamp and they've sold out. Come on. I mean, if you think that way, you can never change your mind about anything. You can never get new information about it. Listen, I have seen one video of Epstein's lawyer talking to him, having this conversation with him. We play that as cut 14.
On a plot against the emperor failed. Plotters were always given a chance to let the families keep their fortunes.
Yeah, but only the rich guys, Tom. The little guys, they got knocked off, and all their estates went to the emperors. Unless they went home and they killed themselves, then nothing happened. And their families were taken care of, Tom.
That was a good break.
Okay. So in other words, what Dan didn't say was that, they might have left him alone to do what they wanted him to do after explaining to him how things were going to go. So that's entirely possible. I still believe that. I still believe that there is a cover up here, but I also believe that if they can expose it, they will. I do. And I think that's great. I mean, this is stuff that is really happening. It really is happening that Elon Musk, he may be disappointed, but he got Doge started. Doge is continuing to do what it's doing. They are exposing the abuse of money and the abuse of NGOs. That is a great thing. I think that I do believe that the Hardy Boys are going to expose this corruption that went into our legal system through the Obama-Biden pipeline. They just planted people to corrupt the system, and I think that it's being purged out. This is good stuff. This is fine. The people who are complaining about it, the people who are telling us the house is on fire, is the people who are being caught, the people who are being exposed. They do not like to be exposed. I've said before, they didn't know they were exposed. They had convinced themselves we couldn't see them. They were like babies who cover their faces and think they disappear. But now we see them, and they don't like it. They think the house is on fire. This is fine. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs: fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plants you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Find the perfect fit for your climate and space. Plus, Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. Order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days without ever leaving home. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy, and get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your landscape, choose the right plants, and more importantly, learn how to care for them. Whether you're seeking privacy, shade, or natural beauty for your yard, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Their in-house experts are ready to help you make the perfect selection. No green thumb required, which is good for me because I love trees, but my thumb is obviously not green. This spring, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code Klavan at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code Klavan at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code Klavan. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use Klavan to save today if and only if you know how to spell Klavan. It's Klavan. This offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Chapter 3, Ted Baxter has the Sadz. I don't know, I'm making all these old references like the Hardy Boys and Ted Baxter, so I don't know how many people remember them, but if you don't remember Ted Baxter, he was on a hilarious comedy, the old Mary Tyler Moore Show, which really was funny. And she worked in a newsroom, and Ted Baxter was this silver-haired, big voice, incredibly pompous, and utterly stupid news anchor who, after the Mary Tyler Moore Show, became Scott Pelley and worked for 60 Minutes. And Pelley, who is the Ted Baxter come to life, made an unintentionally hilarious graduation speech at Wake Forest University. You have to put this in context. Remember, these are kids who are graduating. They have made it through college. They're going out into the world. They're full of hope. They're full of expectations. They're full of a sense that things are good and they're going to make their way in the world. And this clown gets up. Now, remember what's happening at 60 Minutes, right? Two major executives at CBS News have quit because 60 Minutes, trying to secure a merger, is trying to get out from under Trump's lawsuit that points out that they tried to rig the election with a false news story by editing the words of what's her name, the cackling girl, so that she sounded like she was a competent, intelligent person when we all know that she was a word salad, nutcase. And they offered Trump $15 million to settle the lawsuit. Trump turned it down because he wants a quadrillion. I think he wants to solve the federal debt by how much money he gets out of them. But so they're exposed. They're exposed. They lied. They keep lying. They always lie. They lied and lied and lied, and then they lied about lying, and then they lied about lying about lying. And now, and that, I think that's Jake Tapper's book. I think that's in his entire book. But still, they've been exposed. And so this is the speech that Scott Pelley, Ted Baxter, gets up and gives to these hopeful kids just beginning their lives. Cut 10.
Our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts. The fear to speak in America.
Thanks for coming, Scott. Thanks for celebrating our graduation with us. These things are, freedom of speech was under attack when the Biden administration, whoever was running it, colluded with social media to to silence anybody who disagreed with the regime, when they designated people who disagreed with the false COVID narrative as an extremist so the FBI could possibly investigate them. That was when free speech was under attack. You're not under attack. You just lied and you got caught. That's the only thing that happened. It's amazing. And you are taking this hopeful moment of these young people to start whining about the fact that you got caught. You're done, Fally. You're toast. You're toast. You're Ted Baxter toast. Listen to some more of it. It's one of the funniest speeches ever. And I'm sorry, if you're only listening to this, you have to watch him because he's like, Sarah Bernhardt. He's so dramatic about his cut 11.
Power can rewrite history with grotesque, false narratives. They can make criminals heroes and heroes criminals. Power can change the definition of the words we use to describe reality. Diversity is now described as illegal. Equity is to be shunned. Inclusion is a dirty word.
These are the guys who can't define the word woman. These are the guys who changed what woman means, who turned facts into racism. You want to talk about misusing the language. You want to talk about projecting. And by the way, equity means giving everybody the same amount, even if they don't deserve it, haven't earned it, and can't do it. I mean, that is ridiculous. That is not fair. That's the opposite of fair. Fair is people getting what they deserve. That's what it means. So, when did equity become a good thing? That's ridiculous. It's like they turn the words into false words, and now they're complaining that the words are getting their true meaning and being exposed. And false narratives. That is wonderful coming from CBS News. That is absolutely wonderful coming from CBS News. Remember telling Trump, "Oh, you don't know that Biden is. You don't know. We can't verify. We can't verify Hunter Biden's laptop. What are we, reporters? Come on!" And the biggest news organization in the country. Unbelievable stuff. It's just unbelievable high comedy as we pull up the rock and find these little, caterpillars squirming out of there. And they're like, "Oh, don't pull up the rock. Who took the rock away? The rock was sacred. The rock was sacred. Give us back our rock." Almost as good, maybe even better than this. And this is from the wonderful Tim Graham over at Newsbusters, one of my favorite sites. He wrote about Jonathan Capehart's new memoir. He was a Washington Post columnist. He says MSNBC host and PBS pundit Jonathan Capehart has a new memoir out. It's titled Yet Here I Am, Lessons from a Black Man's Search for Home. He says Capehart is still a Washington Post columnist, but he reveals in his terribly troubled tome that he quit the Post editorial board in 2023 over his colleague, Karen Tumulty, an old-fashioned left-wing reporter. She's not a right-winger. His colleague, Karen Tumulty, arguing that it was hyperbolic for President Biden to describe the Republicans passing Georgia's election reform law as Jim Crow 2.0. Hyperbolic is polite, right? It was just a lie, right? So he says when he read, again, this is at Newsbusters from Tim Graham, he says, when Jonathan Capehart read this H word, hyperbolic, in the Post, he says, quote, I was a tornado of emotions, eye-popping rage and disbelief. I couldn't stay. Now, as Tim points out, Georgia shattered records in 2022 for the percentage of registered voters who participated in a midterm election, 82%, and 54% of black Georgians voted. So Tumulty says, how could it be voter suppression if all these people are coming out to vote? And this is Capehart's reaction. I sat frozen, gripping the armrests of my chair as I stared at her in disbelief. With that one comment, Tumulty took an incident where I felt ignored and compounded the insult by robbing me of my humanity. She either couldn't or wouldn't see that I was black, and I came to the conversation with knowledge and history she could never have, that my worldview, albeit different from hers, was equally valid. She took his humanity away from him by disagreeing with him and speaking what was the obvious truth. The obvious truth. To call the Georgia election reform, which came after COVID and after all of the fuddling around with the election laws, unbelievable. These people, that they think it's a tragedy that they've been caught. They've been caught, and they think that this is they lived in this power bubble that protected them. They lived in this kind of respect. They lived in the fact that they were the New York Times. The New York Times was once a really good newspaper, and it really is bad now. I was talking to a liberal in New York. I was in New York this week, and I was talking to a liberal, and he said it's like reading a high school paper, which is what I said on the show, like, months ago. It is like, I said it was like a college rag at this point, except for the bestseller list, which is great, absolutely fantastic. But the thing is, they've been caught. They've been caught, and they're naked, and the emperor is wearing no clothes, and they think it's a tragedy. It's not your humanity that's being taken away. It's your credibility, it's your power, and it's your fault. This is fine. This is a great moment in our history. And yeah, there's going to be trouble. There's going to be fights. There's going to be power struggles. That's the way a democratic republic is supposed to work. We do not want a king. We can love Trump all we want. We do not want a king. We want a president. We want an elected government of different branches. And yeah, some of the branches, Congress has got to step up and do some stuff and fight with Trump, I think, in his corner. But we got to, obviously there's brokenness in our system, and I'm not denying that at all. I'm simply saying that the system is on the right trajectory. This is good news. Pro-life advocates need to know this. Despite the overturning of Roe v. Wade, abortions actually increased by nearly 1% last year. That's over 100,000 additional procedures, bringing the total to an estimated 1,038,100. It's just incredibly tragic. These numbers show the urgent need for action beyond legal victories. PreBorn is directly addressing this crisis. Their network of clinics operates in the areas with the highest abortion rates, providing immediate support to women facing unplanned pregnancies. They offer compassionate care and free ultrasounds, helping women see and connect with their babies. When women hear a fetal heartbeat, they're twice as likely to choose life. Last year alone, PreBorn helped over 67,000 women choose to continue their pregnancies, but the numbers show there's critical work still to be done. Right now, women are walking into abortion clinics who could be reached with the right support and resources. Your monthly support of $28 directly funds this life-saving work. Every day matters when over 1 million lives hang in the balance. PreBorn has proven results in changing hearts and saving lives, but they need sustained support to expand their reach where it's needed most. To donate, simply dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby, or visit preborn.com/Klavan. That's preborn.com/KLAVAN. Final chapter, I'd rather be in Philadelphia. Also an old reference, right? It's W.C. Fields. Oh, no, I'd rather be in... They were going to hang him, I think. He said, oh, no, I think I'd rather be in Philadelphia. So I always like to end, or at least include, talking about who we are, because it is delightful to watch these people collapse. It is delightful to watch the news media get swallowed up in the swamp of it. So it's a tar pit, it's like the dinosaurs in the tar pit, going down into the tar pit. They're being swallowed up in the tar pit of their own lies. It's just wonderful to watch. And I don't want to be sadistic, but I just can't help it. It's just too much fun. But I like to, the important thing is, I really do believe that we are coming to the promised land of a more traditionalist culture, a more American culture, restoring the culture that was destroyed in the 60s, really. It's really been that long. It takes a long time to destroy a brilliant culture, but they did it. And I think that this future, belongs to you. It's not going to belong to my generation. It's going to belong to the younger generation. And I think we have to think about who we are, because there are a lot of voices pulling us in different directions. And all this stuff, all the hatred and all this and pulling us away. I mean, as I've said before, one of the reasons I write books like Kingdom of Cain and The Truth and Beauty, books about our culture, is to remember that the biggest news story of the last 500 years is the loss of Christian faith in the West. And when it comes back, I don't want it coming back with a face of hatred. I don't want it coming back with a face of violence. I don't want it coming back with a face of oppression or authoritarianism. I want it coming back with its true self, which is the voice of freedom and love. That is the voice of Christ. It is. I don't even understand how some of the people who say the filthy things they say in the name of Christ get that out of the gospel, when the gospel is just so full of light and so full of love. And I think that is going to be an important part of rebuilding the culture, is a truly Christian culture. And so last week, I think was it last week or the week before, we were talking about storytelling, and I was saying some of the things that I think we have to start to include in storytelling are 3 important changes. I listed as 1, there is a God, and we should just assume, we don't have to talk about him. Just like Shakespeare, we can just assume his presence and assume the world is like it would be if there were a God, with a moral order and nice things like that. And with a sense that human beings are made to understand the moral order, that we're not deluded when we say something is wrong or something is evil. We have to explore it. We have to make sure it's conducive. It can be shown by reason, but our feelings do matter. We feel things first, we sense things first, and then we put the reasons on them. And then the other thing was that femininity, which is most often expressed by motherhood and homemaking, but is sometimes expressed in other ways. Everybody's an individual, and even motherhood and homemaking can look different for different individuals. But femininity is only the property of women. Only women can be feminine, and femininity is an essential good. Our culture cannot exist without it. It will be bad without it. It will die, as far as I'm concerned. Without it, it can only be provided by women. And that creates complications to being a man, because men like to build things and break things. That is what we are good at. We build things and break things, and when you have women in the mix, suddenly you have to restrain yourself. You have to learn how to lead and create and have power without being domineering and oppressive. Those are complicated, excellent stories. And so, and again, because motherhood especially and femininity, like religion, these are 2 things that get in the way of all power systems. All power systems hate religion, true religion. I mean, godly religion. They're what are sometimes called creeds, which is just things that, like the state religion. But all power centers hate independent religion that is your relationship with God, and they all hate femininity and motherhood, because it says, hey, wait, there is a domain, the home, which is more important than the overall state and the overall society. So they all denigrate it. And the way they get you to stop protesting their denigrations is by telling you you're anti-feminist if you elevate femininity. That is one of the things they do. Recently, it wasn't that recent, a few months back, somebody was pillorying me for speaking what to me is a basic truth, which is, I said I was doing one of my rants about the fact that they put these scenes in movies or TV where women beat up men. And I hate these things because, as we are learning through the violence of the transgender movement, that is not normal. Yes, of course, like some women can beat up some men, but let's speak in generalities. Women cannot beat up men. They are much smaller, much weaker, much more frail in body, and they will be destroyed. And that is one of the ways, that is one of the central ideas behind societies. One of the central things they deal with is, how do we deal with this, unfair division of power? How do we if you're a good society, how do we protect women? What are the rules? What are the rules and the ways that men do it? And I said something, if you're a person like me, I'm quoting myself, who loves women and wants to have a wonderful life with a wonderful woman and respect her and never raise a hard hand against her, you have to find that woman. I said, you have to find a woman who doesn't need to be smacked around in order to behave in a civilized way. In other words, if you want to be a gentleman, you have to find a lady, right? And there's no point in being like pretending to be shocked about that. It's no point in pretending that there aren't women who will abuse you because you are a gentleman, and you have to leave those women and find a woman who's not like that. That was my point. You don't want to have a woman that you feel like in order to not be abused, you have to use force against her. That's a horrible thing. You want to just get out of that relationship, right? And to pretend that there are no women like that, anyone who believes there are no women like that has simply never been president of France. I mean, that's let me just put it to you that way, all right? So I want to talk about briefly, I've been bringing all these old references up. I want to bring one more up, a film that is one of my favorite films, and I think one of the greatest American films ever made, Philadelphia Story, 1940, one of the greatest casts in the world, Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, Katharine Hepburn. You can't do any better than that. Katharine Hepburn actually was in the play of Philadelphia Story and optioned the play because her career was failing. She had like one flop after another, and she wanted to bring herself back, and she did with this brilliant, brilliant film. And it is about Cary Grant plays an alcoholic who has ruined his marriage to this very unforgiving ice queen named Tracy Samantha Lord, and who was Katharine Hepburn. So I'll just call them by the actors' names. And the film starts out, Cary Grant storms out of his mansion with his hands full with suitcases, and Katharine Hepburn follows her out with this kind of very slappable smirk on her face and starts breaking his golf clubs and destroying his precious, doodads that he had in his office and things like that. And he follows her back and he lifts his fist to her and he's about to punch her in the face, and then he can't do it because she's a lady, and instead he just pushes her in the face and she goes down. And you're just thinking as you watch this, yeah, she deserved that. I mean, I'm glad he didn't punch her, but she deserved it. So it's about basically these two men. One is Cary Grant, who comes back because his ex-wife is about to remarry a kind of stuffy, self-made man, and he wants her back. And she will never forgive him for drinking. And James Stewart is a tabloid reporter who comes back to cover this socialite wedding. And James Stewart just falls for her. So Cary Grant, having been married to her, sees her flaws and sees that she's unforgiving and wants her forgiveness, but he doesn't know how to really ask for it. And so he really gives it to her. This is what he says, is cut 12.
You're far and away your favorite person in the world.
Dexter, in case you don't know...
Of course, Mr. Connor. She's a girl who's generous to a fault.
To a fault, Mr. Connor.
Except to other people's faults. For instance, she never had any understanding of my deep and gorgeous thirst.
That was your problem.
Granted. But you took on that problem with me when you took me, Red. You were no helpmate there. You were a scold.
It was disgusting. It made you so unattractive.
A weakness, sure. And strength is her religion, Mr. Connor. She finds human imperfection unforgivable.
So all that is true of her, but he's also a drunk. And so he's asking her, really, in that very tough scene, he's asking her for forgiveness. That is his manly way of asking her for forgiveness. And meanwhile, Jimmy Stewart just falls for her like a ton of bricks. And he's just a street reporter trying to make his way as a writer. And this is the scene where he actually starts to fall in love with her. It's cut 13.
There's a magnificence in you, Tracy.
Now, I'm getting self-conscious. It's funny, Mike, that's...
Yeah?
I don't know. Go up, I guess. It's late.
A magnificence that comes out of your eyes and your voice and the way you stand there and the way you walk. You're lit from within, Tracy. You've got fires banked down in you. Hearth fires and holocausts.
I don't seem to be made of bronze.
No, you're made out of flesh and blood. That's the blank, unholy surprise of it.
I mean, it's a great, she suddenly comes to life as a woman because he sees her, he sees who she is, and he sees who she really is under her defenses and under the fact that she's been hurt by her alcoholic husband. And the reason this movie is not a tragedy, the reason it's a comedy, I mean, I'm not giving anything away there, is because the men in the end live by a code that respects her and understands that they have to play by certain rules to let her be herself. And because she understands that Cary Grant has a point, that she needs to find a little bit of feminine tenderness and forgiveness and let somebody she loves back in her life. It's an amazing film about how society is constructed on the way that women are and the way that men are and the things that we owe to one another. You know, one of the reasons that Sigmund Freud, not a lot of people know this, there's an obscure fact for it. Sigmund Freud insisted, like a tyrant, that all motivations came from sex. All our motivations came from sex. And he would throw anybody out of his circle who wouldn't agree with him, and he would just condemn them and all this stuff. And he said he had to do this because otherwise people would start to turn to the occult. And what he meant by this was that they would recognize that there is something inside us that is not physical. And Freud, that goes against Freud's materialist philosophy. They would understand that we are spirits. We are not human beings. You know, the thing about men and women is that sex is really not the point of them, right? Sex is a beautiful thing, and I think people who are married should have sex like crazy, and I think they should be generous and wonderful about their sex lives and love their sex life and give each other what they need and all that stuff, but it ain't about the sex. Sex is beautiful, but when it comes to women, everything is about love, which is a spiritual experience. And so I think that two generations have been taught that they need some kind of rules, some kind of legal rules. But what they really need is to not be afraid of being gentlemen and ladies. They need to not be afraid of being gentlemen and ladies. And you don't have to be Katharine Hepburn. It helps to be Katharine Hepburn. I won't lie to you. But you don't have to be Katharine Hepburn to be a lady. You don't have to be Katharine Hepburn to be a lady. And you don't have to be Cary Grant, though it helps, to be a gentleman. You simply have to have a code and live by that code that makes things come to life. And I think we have to remember that because, you know, you can throw, old saying, you can throw nature out the door, but it's going to come back in through the window. And I think that's what needs to happen next. It needs to come back through the window because if of all things in our world, our sexual lives the house is burning. And when nature comes back and when we learn how to handle nature, that too will be fine. If you are not a Daily Wire Plus member, I need your attention for 20 seconds. For a limited time, new annual memberships are 40% off. And with your new membership, you can watch an all-new Ben After Dark tonight. But you will also be the first to see Dr. Jordan B. Peterson's new episode of Parenting coming this Sunday. You can stream hit movies, series, and documentaries like What is a Woman? And the #1 documentary of the decade, Am I Racist? You'll even get access to all our daily shows completely ad-free. None of it's available without a Daily Wire Plus membership. Head to DailyWirePlus.com and use code DW40 to save 40% now. Klavan Klapbacks.
She has eyes that folks adore, so and a torso even more. So Lydia, what is this? That encyclopedia.
Idiot program.
Yeah!
Philadelphia Story. Great film. Watch it this weekend. Klavan Klapbacks at DailyWire.com. Klavan with a K, Klapbacks with a K at DailyWire.com. Write in and ask about anything you want, your personal life, politics, religion, anything you want to talk about, I will talk about. From Julian says, I watch every episode of Megyn Kelly's show, and a couple of weeks ago she had Tucker Carlson on and allowed him to say really terrible things about Ben Shapiro and other conservatives, allowed him to lie about Qatar and Ukraine and lie about his stance toward Israel and his insinuations about Jews and various other things without any pushback whatsoever. In fact, nodding along and encouraging him. Megyn is a great positive force, but in my mind, Tucker is clearly a bad actor, yet most people pretend not to notice. Is it fear? Is it team ball? I appreciate you for speaking out against his behavior in the past and against others who are less clever and subtle than him. I just wish more would follow suit. So listen, I mean, Megyn is a great talent, great person, a really brilliant person. And I saw that episode. And I just want to say, besides all the other stuff that Tucker said, Ben has invited Tucker Carlson on his show at least 5 times. I mean, he's continually invited him on to talk things through, and Tucker doesn't come. So I think that's just an important thing to know about them. Listen, I know a number of people. I shook hands with Tucker Carlson once in a restroom. I introduced myself to him because I'd been on his show a couple of times and wanted to say hello, and he was charming, but I don't know him. But I know a number of people who know him and like him very much. And I think he's done something wrong. And I Don't know what it is. People accuse him of taking money from Qatar, Russia, whatever. I don't know. I do know that many of the things he's saying are just simply factually ridiculous. When he talks, we didn't win World War II, it's like, he says, look around you. We didn't win World War II. It's 80 years ago. Things change. After World War II, the entire world was in rubble except for us. We won World War II. That they knew, that it was demonic to drop the atom bomb on Nagasaki. It is calculated to have saved 100,000 American lives, and it was not as bad as the firebombing of Tokyo and the firebombing of Dresden, other things that we did. War is a horrible, horrible thing. I wish there were no wars, but it was not demonic. And he has suggested that we dropped the bomb on Nagasaki because that's where the Christians, the Catholics lived. In fact, the guy who dropped the bomb was a Catholic, and he was trying to go somewhere else, but that was the only place where the cloud cover was. So if you want to blame the Jews, it was the big Jew who was in charge of that. And he just said a lot of things that just aren't true in his coverage of Russia and all these things. I don't know why. I don't know why he does that. And he was great on Fox. He did a couple of really terrific shows. And the people who know him like him very much. People I like him very much. So I assume that he is a really decent person and that he's a friend. I assume he's a friend of Meghan's. And I don't think she's being, I don't think she's supporting him in his attacks on Ben. She has Ben on her show too and does friendly interviews with him. I think that she is just being friends to a friend, and I think that that's true of a lot of people. And I'm hoping he comes around. I think he's doing something wrong, and I don't know why. I seriously don't. And I hope he comes around. And I don't like attacking people on the right either, because I think that we are the future, and it's important that we get it right, and it's important that people who speak out and who people follow and are fans of get it right. And I think all of that stuff matters very much. And so, I want Tucker to say things that are right and true, and I hope he does. And I don't know what has been going through his mind, but like sometimes we need to course correct, and that's what I think he needs to do. And you, if you are not a member, need to course correct, because the penalty is Klavanlessness, which is like a sort of darkness that is so dark that you can't even, the word dark even disappears in it. That's how dark it is. So go to dailywire.com/subscribe and use code Klavan at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. And then you will get to come to Member Block, and you won't have to be plunged into that blackness quite so soon. Become a member now. If you're already a member, come over to Member Block.